Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the League of Europe YouTube channel for round 9 of the Division 3 season. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Car Mentalist. I'll be taking you through proceedings as always. And as always, joining me in the commentary box today is IRO Dylan. Dylan, how are you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. It's good to be back with you in the commentary box. After not being with you in the commentary box for 2 rounds, but I'm excited to get going for this race again.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this race turns out. Before we just jump into the standings for just coming into today's round, first question for you, Dylan. How was it coming solo for the first time?
I was pretty nervous, to be honest, before the race, and it was the first time I ever did it, and hopefully I think I did it quite well, and hope everyone enjoyed the stream, of course. But I'm glad you're back, and glad I have someone basically helping me out this time. So yeah, I can't wait to get started.
Brilliant. Yeah, it seems like you got really well. It got really well received last week. You did a brilliant job. I did catch the stream a couple of days after it happened, and you did a brilliant job. So, congrats on that one. And like you say, now we've got 2 people back in the commentary box, and we can bounce off each other again. So, all back to normal once again. Just going to run you through then, guys, the championship standings coming into round 9 of the season. After this round, we're officially halfway through the championship. This championship's absolutely flown by, in my opinion, but we're already at the halfway point, pretty much. So, leading the championship after last week's race in Austria is NSX Yorno. He's back in the lead of the championship, having won for the first time this season. Since Australia, actually. It's his second win of the season. He won the opening round and hasn't won since, so that's his second race win of the season. Second place in the championship and second last time out is J. Cole. He's only 1 point behind coming into this round, so that is incredibly close. As we thought at the start of the season that Yorno was going to run away with it, and now it's a really close battle between those two. Old School is up into third place on 84 points. He's 22 points further behind the top 2 at the moment, but he's on a bit of a roll at the moment, having 3 top 4 finishes in a row. Behind him is Caesar. He's a further 29 points off of the top 3, so it's fair to say that the top 3 really have jumped away at the front of the standings. Behind Caesar, Eduk, B. Morgan, Bree, YHYY, TDB and Harry Marg round off the top 10 at the moment, and still noticeable people outside the top 10 in points at the moment. Ton, Peas, Miami, Stumpy. A lot of those people that have taken part in the full season, or the majority of the season, haven't quite broken into the top 10 yet. So, looking at the championship, would you say it's pretty much a 3-way fight from this point onwards?
Yeah, it really is looking like a 3-way fight at the moment, especially between the battle for Yorno and J. Cole right now. There's only 1 point separating both of them. So midway through the season, this is incredibly tight. So I'm very excited to see the remainder of the season and how the championship battle is going to pan out. Mark, of course, we can't rule him out just yet. He's only 22 points behind J. Cole. So 1 bad race for J. Cole and 1 bad race for Yorno, and Mark is right up there.
Exactly, yeah, he's less than a race win behind the championship leader, so anything can happen, and we've still got 10 rounds to go, including this one, so anything can pop up throughout this season, and something could change the dynamic of how the season goes. Coming into Silverstone, obviously this is the first round this season that also ran as a pre-season event, so it's interesting to see how people have developed since the pre-season. The pre-season race was won by J. Cole in very confident fashion. He didn't really have the outright speed in qualifying, and he wasn't the fastest person, but he was very clean, very methodical with his overtakes, and ended up winning that race in the end by only 2 seconds over TDB. He was Super Gamer at the time, but we were talking a little bit before the stream started. TDB's pace around here just throughout the week seems really good here, doesn't it?
It really seems good. In practice earlier, I saw him keep up with some D2 and some D1 drivers even, so I'll definitely have an eye on TDB. I'm expecting a great result from him if he can keep it clean and keep it on track. But his natural pace around this track is quite insane, to be honest. So it's going to be very exciting to see how he qualifies and how he does in the race.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see what he can do. He's currently 9th in the standings, 2 points behind both YHYY. He's actually, level on points with YHYY and 1 point behind Bree. So outscoring those two by 1 point will jump him 2 places in the championship. And he has shown flashes of speed so far this season. I think notably Bahrain was probably one of the best ones that he's shown so far this season, even with an alternate strategy. He showed really good pace, but it's just not quite come together for him this season, has it? It's never really worked in his favour, whether that's poor strategy choices or just being involved in some incidents.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate because he definitely has the pace to get some decent top 5 finishes, and we saw, of course, in Austria where he got P4, I believe, and it's a wet qualifying. That's
Ooh.
very interesting. First time we've seen wet qualifying in D3 this season. So
Yeah.
this is going to be incredibly exciting. But as I was going to say, that TDB actually has in Austria, he had a great race, and he didn't quite have the pace to keep up with Mark, Jorno, and Jaco. But out of the basically everyone behind him, he was quite he was the leader of the train for throughout the entire race, basically. So I think he definitely has the pace to get some podiums and some great top 5 finishes. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what he can do today.
Definitely, and that battle at the moment for 4th in the standings from Caesar pretty much all the way down to Stumpy in 13th is only separated by 35 points. That's 10 drivers within 35 points of each other, so any sort of gain that you can have in these races will result in a massive jump in the standings. So TDB, being as fast as he is around here, could jump him up a number of places in the standings. We have only got 15 people in the lobby today, unfortunately, so not quite got full attendance today, but that does mean that there's more people really able to get points, as Jorno's unfortunately left the session, so fingers crossed he can get back in the session and get into qualifying. Our championship leader obviously doesn't want to disconnect from the lobby before the race has even begun, but J. Cole's going to be first out onto the track. We don't know what the weather's going to be like for the race, but if it is a dry race, the problem for people in qualifying here is going to be able to keep the car on the road with a fully dry setup on. That's going to be really, really difficult around a track this challenging.
Yeah, especially with all those high-speed corners around Silverstone here, it's very easy to lose the car in the wet, and especially if you're driving on a dry setup. Just a slight error when turning in, or slight error on traction, and your car just goes straight into the barrier. So you have to be very, very cautious on your lap. So it's going to be quite interesting to see who can get a clean lap in, and probably if you just get a clean lap in, your qualifying time should be quite good, to be fair. So it's going to be exciting to see J. Cole's the first one out on the lap, and he's going to start his lap soon.
Yeah, let's wait and see what he can do then. One thing to remember though with wet qualifying as well is that a lot of people will probably be out on the track with multiple laps of fuel in the car, so their first lap might not be the fastest one they do. We'll ride on board with J. Cole then for the full duration of his first lap in qualifying through turn 1 at Abbey. Slight lift midway through the corner, has a bit of a wobble on the exit, has to change down into 7th, and again has a massive wobble in turn 2. Too much power, didn't lift off through turn 2 and spun the car on pure traction in a high-speed corner alone. He's completely dropped the car midway through the corner. So we'll now ride on board with TDB then. He will be the next person. He's the next person to start a full lap, and he'll be the first person now to set a time in qualifying. He's coming through Aintree onto the Wellington Straight now, under the Emirates Bridge, and then down towards Brooklands. One of the best overtaking opportunities on the track. It is quite a short braking zone into a long left-hander and then a long right-hander directly after it. This is Luffield. Very important to get a good run out of here, because it's flat out pretty much, in the dry at least, from here all the way until the second part of Maggots and Beckett. So he keeps it flat then through Woodcote. Not really a corner in modern Formula 1 terms. Now coming up towards Copse Corner. Let's wait and see what he can do through here. Does he lift off? He does lift off down into 7th gear, but still pretty good speed through the corner. Now coming up towards Maggots and Beckett. Maggots is the first 2 corners here, through the first and the second part, and now into Beckett's, which is the first left-hander and the first right-hander here, and then through Chapel and onto the Hangar Straight. A little bit of understeer midway through the corner, but that is probably an inclination of the amount of fuel that TDB is running. 1 minute 10.9 by the end of the second sector. Now down the Hangar Straight, an uphill braking zone for Stowe means you can brake later than you would normally think to do so for this corner. Through the long right-hander, don't run out too wide because you can invalidate very easily on the outside there. It now comes up into the Vale and Club chicane. Don't hit the sausage curb on the inside. In fact, actually, TDB has the confidence to do so. And now through Club, the double apex right-hander to finish the lap. Just really, really cautious on the power because it's through a corner, and it's a 37.6 to start out the session. That's the first time on the board. We've got, I believe, B. Morgan coming up to cross the line behind him, and he goes 1.3 seconds faster. What a 36.3. Harry Noel crosses the line on a 39 flat. I thought that lap from onboard TDB's perspective actually looked pretty confident and pretty consistent, but B. Morgan, what a lap time to go so far ahead of the rest of the field at the moment.
Yeah, it was a very good lap, and now Old School 3000 with a 35.7. That is an incredible lap. But one thing I noticed on TDB's lap, he was not using hot lap, and he is now. So he sets the fastest first sector as of right now. But I think that was 2 outlaps right after each other to kind of get a feel of the track, and now he's using his hot lap. So I imagine he'll go quite a bit faster with his ERS mode now. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how that all pans out for him. his first lap time was actually quite representative if you look at the times, basically. And everyone's struggling quite a lot with the weather at the moment. But yeah, that's very surprising to see TDB go for 2 out laps in a row. And he's nearly 2 seconds up on his time, so this is going to be an incredible lap time for TDB so far. This could definitely challenge Total Peace for P1 at the moment.
Here it comes through Stowe.
And then through Ville Chicane, I believe it. I'm not quite familiar with the corner names, I'm sorry. And now through basically the actual last final corner, and now goes on the traction. This looks like quite a good lap for TDB, and it's a 35-1. Only 500s away from Total Peace on pole right now.
Yeah, again, suggesting that he had a bit more fuel on board, and that's why it's gone for the 2 warm-up laps. Good lap from TDB. Total Peace on pole, provisional pole position with a 35 flat at the moment. We're also talking about Peace' season so far. Peace has shown flashes of really good pace, but it's just not quite come together for him so far. J. Cole on his second lap does a 35-1. He goes into third place just behind TDB. Savage goes up into P4 in the Red Bull in the 35-4. That's now beaten by his teammate Miami, who goes onto a 35-2 in the other Red Bull. So he's now into fourth place. We've got one of the McLarens across the line. That's Yorno to start his first lap. One of the Renaults is coming up to the line. I believe that is going to be Brie coming up to the line, but I don't think he is improved on his time at all. P's coming around to start another lap as well, and I believe Stumpy has just crossed the line as well. He had a bit of a spin through Cops, which is why he's not improved on his time either. He's currently running in 10th place. So just goes to show how quickly it changes. Old School was on pole position, and within a matter of minutes he's now 6th.
That is quite insane, to be honest. Everyone's improving. Everyone's getting used to the track conditions, and you can see drivers improving massively on their times early on in the session. It's going to be interesting to see. Yorno still is now out on his first lap time, our championship leader, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can do on his first lap time. Yeah, everyone, it's very close at the top right now. Quite some close margins now, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that all pans out for the rest of qualifying.
Definitely, yeah. Yorno then coming through the Magnussen Beckett session. Look for a low 1 minute 9 by the end of the second sector to be very competitive. It's a 9.3, so it's looking good so far for Yorno on his first lap. This at the moment, I imagine this time will probably pop him in that battle for second and third place there with the 35 1s and 2s for the likes of the people in front. But Yorno, look how sideways he was through Stowe. I don't know how on earth he held on to that. Just about keeps it going in the right direction. That would have cost him a few tenths though, as Old School crosses the line on his third lap on those intermediate tyres and does a 34.7. So a massive improvement from him, and he goes onto pole position. Yorno, with that slide in the end, loses time in the final sector, only ends up 8th, so he's got to go again and maybe go again on these set of tyres. Pease now goes fastest by 4 thousandths of a second. Pease improves and goes on to provisional pole position. D3's qualifying has been so close all season long. This is the second longest track on the calendar, and it's wet, and still the front two are only separated at the moment by 4 thousandths of a second.
That's just incredible to see. It's so close between those two drivers, and we of course know how Old School, also known as Eloise Mark, loves driving in the wet. So yeah, him not being in provisional poles actually that might shock most people around here. So he'll definitely want pole position in the wet. So it's going to be very interesting to see a lot of drivers going into the pits now, and probably take a second of their intermediate tires to do their second run of time.
Ew, sorry, I just had a bit of a gas there. Just we're watching Jonas on his first lap in the AlphaTauri. How on earth? He's so sideways coming out of Cops. He was wobbling all over the road. He managed to keep it going in the right direction, but he's had a couple of moments on this lap where he seems to be a bit all over the road. I think B. Morgan's just improved to 5th place in the Haas on his 4th lap on those intermediate tyres. Jonas now coming through the final sector. Jonas, I commentated over him in TTML this season so far, and he has finished on the podium in 8 out of the 10 races. So this man is incredibly consistent. Let's see if he can bring that consistency into LOE. It hasn't quite panned out in the races that he's taken part in so far. He now comes round the final corner. Where's his first lap time in the session going to put him? Bit of a wobble. He crosses the line, and it's only 10th, directly behind his teammate Caesar. Caesar back for the first time in 3 rounds, struggling in these conditions as well. He's only 9th, having been one of the leading contenders at the start of this season. and just not been able to match his pace really since maybe the first 3 rounds of the season. Looking further down as well, the Ferrari is really struggling. YHYY and Eduk not able to set a time as of yet. I think Eduk spun on his previous lap as well, so this is his second lap on these tyres. YHYY coming around the final corner now. He crosses the line, it's a 46.2, so that's clearly he's made a mistake on that lap. He's backed off and is going for another run. So we'll ride with Eduk for the rest of his lap in that Ferrari. Eduk, though, I'd probably say I don't want to be too harsh on Eduk. He's definitely an incredibly fast driver, but to see him only 5th in the standings and with less than half the points of Yorno, I'm a little bit surprised to see Eduk struggling so much so far this season.
Yeah, and I think he had I think the start of the season might have been a little bit. Well, I don't know how you quite say it, but it's just not actually like representative as Caesar sets a time and 100ths faster than total pace. It's incredibly close between the top 3 right now. But as I was saying about Eduk, I think he had a false start to the season so far, and I know he can do better, and I expect him to do better. So I'm quite sure he'll get back on top and probably get some more podiums and race wins this season, because he definitely has the pace for those.
Yeah, here he comes then, round the final part of Club to cross the line for his first time in the session. What's it going to be? It's only P9 for the time being. It's a 35.4, but we've seen that people on their second laps on these tyres are massively improving on their time. So I'll have to wait and see. As I say that, though, I think Eduk had a massive moment through Abbey. He managed to hold on to the car, but he was very sideways. Caesar set in that time a 34.7 on his 4th lap on those intermediate tyres. Just goes to show that going out with a lot more fuel and doing more and more runs to build the confidence seems to be the better strategy around here. That's a brilliant time from Caesar. And on that one lap alone, he gained 1.1 seconds on his personal best at that point. Just goes to show how much time is in it if you stay out and maybe warm those intermediate tyres up a little bit more. Let's wait and see if anyone else is on a lap currently. I believe Miami was on a lap. He's just come through the sector, through he's just come across the line, sorry, I think, to start another lap. So wait and see what he can do in the Red Bull. See who else is coming up to the line. I think one of the McLarens is on the lap time. Actually, that's Yorno, sorry. He's on an out lap, so he's not going to be setting a time as of yet. Harry Nawag is on the track at the moment. Only a 39 flat for him, so he's not set a competitive time so far. Harry Nawag obviously joining the season a little bit later, but since then has had pretty consistent runs inside the points. He's done a good job so far. He's into the top 10, having started, I believe, 4 or 5 rounds late into this championship. He's done a good job so far. Let's see what he can do in this session. He comes across the second sector point and is 1.7 seconds up on his personal best, so obviously a massive improvement on his first time in this session. Comes through Stowe now. Let's see how confident he is midway through the corner. Doesn't hit the curb on the inside. Understeers quite wide. Has a bit of a wobble on the exit of the corner as well. So simply struggling with a little bit of mid-corner understeer in the Alfa Romeo very early on the brakes of Vale and Club. Keeping it in 3rd gear. He's very ginger on the power. He just can't get the throttle down, as shows there. Has a massive snap through the second part of Club. Comes across the line. Does a 36.8. Does improve, but is still 6/10 slower than his teammate and is still 15th. Harry Nawag really struggling in these wet conditions.
Yeah, he of course improved by quite a bit on his time, but he's really struggling right now, and I think he's gone for another hot lap right after his lap, and he'll probably keep doing laps and laps until he improves more on his time. I think Miyabi just popped in at 25.0. He goes into provisional P4. That's a good lap from him. Further in behind, I think J. Cole's about to start one of his
just
laps.
Finished
no,
lap.
He finished. Oh wow, with 34.4.
Wow.
That is an incredible lap. 3/10 clear of Total Peace now, who's also just started his 3rd run, I believe. So it's all, the times are coming down, confidence is going up, so it's going to be very, very interesting to see who can improve on their times and get that good qualifying position in. J. Cole is now in P1. Yorno, his championship rival, is in P10. He really has to step up and get that good qualifying time in to get a good grid position for the race. It's going to be very, very close and interesting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, advantage J. Cole at the moment. He did that lap while spinning across the start-finish line, so it's spun a few times in this session already, so clearly he's fast but struggling to keep the car on the road. We'll ride with Pease for the rest of his lap. He's in the Mercedes at the moment, coming through into the Maggots and Beckett's complex. We've just got one of the Alfa Romeos in front of him that's gone into the pit lane, so he will be the next person to cross the line. And I believe Miami's directly behind him on the road. Here comes Pease through the second sector split, and he's 2 and a bit tenths up on his personal best, so this could put him back on provisional pole. Pease so far this season has had incredible pace, but just hasn't been able really to finish a race. He's only scored once so far this season, and that was a podium in Baku. So let's see if he can get this car to the finish of the race this time round and score, as he should have done really a lot of times this season, through the final sector, looking nice and neat and tidy, coming through the final part of Club now. hits the apex nicely on the inside. He comes up to cross the line, and he retakes provisional pole position by less than half a tenth of a second. He's back on top then with a 34.4. Good lap from him, good improvement. Back into provisional pole. J. Cole down to second place now. He dives into the pit lane, so I wonder if he's going for another set of intermediate tyres here, just for a final last lap dash around this track. Old School's on a lap as well. He was 2 and a bit tenths up in the first sector alone, so let's see if he's improved through the middle part of the lap as well. He's coming through Chapel now, coming up to the second sector split time in the Renault. A little bit of a wobble there. He's only a tenth up now, so he's lost a little bit of time as the lap has gone on. Let's see if he can maybe gain some of that time back in the final set to get onto the front row. This is good for Old School as well. Championship leader Jorna is still down in 10th place in the pit lane at the moment as well. Old School were given an opportunity here maybe to try and close in to the top 2 in the championship. Maybe if he can get ahead of J. Cole as well and really concertina that top 3 up. That's what he needs to do to try and put himself in that championship battle. Comes through the final part of club now. Looks nice and neat and tidy. Comes up to the line and has lost all the time he gained in the first sector by the end of the lap, so he didn't improve on that time. Looks like Old School's intermediate tyres, as he has a massive slide there through Abbey. It looks like Old School has reached the limit on his tyres now.
Yeah, and he nearly spun at the exit of Abbey, and it looks like his qualifying is over for this race. And yeah, he was 2 tenths up in sector 1 and long time throughout the lap. Very interesting to see. He definitely has a lot of time in his lap. He can easily challenge Total Peace.
Oh,
and wow. Okay.
5 place grid penalty for a collision with Caesar. I don't know how on earth that has happened. Caesar's currently stuck behind B Morgan on the road, I believe. I think they're both on laps by the looks of things. No, Caesar's on it. But they've somehow made contact in the first sector of the lap, so Old School currently 4th, will drop to 9th at the moment. That might drop him to 10th actually, because they're just riding with Savage, and Savage has just set the fastest middle sector of anybody so far. He comes round the final corner. Where can he put that Red Bull? He goes into 6th, so he can't improve enough in the final sector to break into that top 4, but he goes directly behind his Red Bull teammate into 6th on the road, and he now goes off at Abbey as well. A lot of people going off the road through Abbey corner. Stumpy's improved to 12th place in the meantime as well. He's on another lap, but he's invalidated, so he won't be improving. We've got one of the Ferraris, that's Eduk on a lap. YY is out of the session, so he's not going to be starting inside the top 10. Eduk's invalidated his run, so he'll go for one more run as well. We've got 4 cars in a train coming down the hangar straight now. B Morgan heads to Q ahead of, I believe, Harry Nawag, Caesar and TDB all following each other down that back straight. B Morgan is on a lap. He's backed off, sorry. B Morgan was on a lap and he's now backed off, so he's not going to be going. He's going to be going again at the end of this lap for his final run in qualifying. We've got about 30 seconds to go in this session. A lot of cars very close together, all now having to back up in the final sector as well to try and find some space on the track. Everyone on a track so long, everyone's ended up in the same bit of track, and this could really affect them, especially if someone in front has a poor lap. They could really hold up people around this circuit. The circuit is so aero dependent that having a lot of understeer, having a lot of dirty air coming off the back of the car in front could really cause a lot of understeer here. B Morgan then on another lap so far in that Haas car. You see, we'll run on board with someone else as well who's a bit further around the lap. Stumpy's just gone through the first sector, 2 and a bit tenths up in his personal best. So good first sector from the Alfa Romeo man. He has a bit of a wobble there through Brooklands, but he's going to keep going. Pease has spun coming across the line, so he's not going to be improving on the time that he's set so far. And I believe that is Old School and one of the Red Bulls, maybe Miami. Actually, no, Savage, sorry. Savage and Bree actually coming into the pit lane, so they're not going to be completing times either. J. Cole's retired from the session, so he's not going to be improving on second place. So J. Cole, on his final run, seemingly making a mistake very early on in the lap, and has decided not to continue with it, so he's only going to be second at the most here. Let's see Stumpy, is he improving through the middle part of the lap? This has looked much better from the Alfa Romeo man as he goes on through that sector. He's now nearly half a second up on his personal best. This could gain him quite a number of places if he can keep this up as the lap goes on into the final sector. Now he's got no one in front of him on the track, a nice clean road. He's got Eduk in the Ferrari directly behind him on the road as well. Here comes Stumpy then into the final chicane, into the Vale and Club chicane. A little bit on the curb there, has to take 2 stabs at turning into the corner, but gets to the apex nicely, gets through the final part of the Vale Club chicane nicely as well. Coming up to the line, where does Stumpy improve to? He jumps to 9th in the end with a 6th tenth of a second improvement inside the top 10. Eduk though goes 5th in the Ferrari. Good improvement from him. B Morgan now coming up to the line in the Haas, and he goes P3. What an improvement. Wow, on his 3rd lap on those tyres. What a lap time from B Morgan. As Caesar now jumps to the top of the field with a 34.3. He goes on to provisional pole position by just under a tenth of a second. TDB goes 4th in the Williams on the 34.5. We've got Miami across the line now. He goes 3rd in the Red Bull, we've got Tejonis coming up to the line. He goes 9th in the second now for Tauri. Here comes Yorno to the line. Currently 12th back, and he goes 5th. He goes just behind his championship rival, J. Cole. Good improvement in him, despite a bit of a truncated session for him. Old School will be the next person to cross the line, but he's invalidated his time. So Old School only 8th in the wet conditions, not what he would have wanted. And it looked like at the end of the session, the track conditions improved massively, and everyone gained so much time on their personal best.
Yeah, that is very surprising to see. Now Old School with qualified himself in P8, and with that 5th place grid penalty, he's going to start P13, and that's not what you want to see, because now J. Cole and Yorno, both in the top 5, they both have a chance to pull away from him in the championship standings. It's going to be very close. Both championship rivals are starting next to each other. Can't wait to see what's going to happen in the race.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really exciting to see. But Caesar on pole position, someone who's notorious for struggling in qualifying but having good race pace, he's put himself on pole position with a great final lap in that session. Bit of contact midway through the session with Old School, but he somehow got away with it, and he is on pole position by just under 1/10 of a second. Look at that. 0.2 of a second covers the top 5 in qualifying at a wet Silverstone. P's on the front row once again. How many times has he qualified on the front row this season? Miami with his best qualifying of the season so far in 3rd place. J. Cole 4th ahead of Yorno 5th. TDB 6th ahead of B. Morgan. Old School, who will drop down the field. So that means that Eduk will be 8th. Jodonis 9th. Savage 10th. Stumpy 11th. 12th will go the way of YHYY. Old School will drop to 13th, and then Bree and Harry Nawag will round out the final people on the grid. Renault coming into the session probably pretty confident off the back of a few good results. 13th and 14th on the grid for the Renault team. Not what they needed.
No, definitely not what they needed, but in D3 anything can happen. Anyone can come back up the field. We saw Jaco, of course, last week starting from P20 and coming in, finishing the race in 2nd. So anything can happen. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Mark, or Old School, sorry, is going to bounce back in the race and see if he can get some decent points, because he really needs those to stay ahead of Caesar, who's of course qualified on pole. He now has a chance to close up to him for the battle for P3, and he, of course, Old School, of course, wants to manage the gap between him and Yorno and J. Cole at the top. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all goes in the race. Old School, of course, needs a good result to stick with the top 2 in the championship.
Yeah, Caesar's shown a lot of good pace this season as well, when he's coming off the back of 3 rounds in a row where he's not scored any points as such, whether that's not turning up to the races or DNFing. So he's lost out a lot of points in these last 3 rounds to the people in front of him on the field, and he's shown very, very good pace throughout the season. So let's see if Caesar can now throw himself back into the championship battle. We're only halfway through the season. The gap is just over 50 points to the championship leader, and it's not out of the question. A bad result for Yorno and a bad result for J. Cole, which we have seen from them so far this season, could put Caesar right back in it, and we know he has the pace to pull off race victories.
Yeah, he definitely has the pace to pull off race victories. He just needs to keep it clean and stay on track. He, of course, missed the last 2 races, and now starting on pole, this is the best position you can start, and they were looking to win this race with Toto Peace behind, Miami in 3rd, and championship rivals P4 and P5 is pretty very close. Of course, TDB, we are going to have to have an eye on him during this race, because his race pace in practice was quite insane, to be honest. So yeah, he could actually make up some positions during this race as well.
He could, definitely, and Silverstone's a fairly easy track to overtake on. A lot of overtaking opportunities here that can be pulled off, and strategy as well can come into play. It's the easiest soft-medium strategy around here. The tyre wear for a track with a lot of high-speed corners, the tyre wear here is relatively low, so you're not going to see people really struggling for grip around this track unless they've pitted very, very early in this race. Looking at the strategies as well, obviously, being a wet qualifying, everyone can start on whatever tyre they like or whatever fresh set of compound tyres they want. So, top 4 in the field have all gone for the soft tyres. Yorno, interestingly, 5th on the grid, has decided to go for the medium. So, he's the highest up person on the grid to go for that alternate strategy. Eduk and Tejonis 8th and 9th have also gone for the mediums, as has Stumpy, YHYY and Old School 11th, 12th and 13th, all going for something different. But Yorno, that high up on the grid, 3rd row of the grid, going for the medium tyres. He's banking on having some really, really good pace on those mediums at the start of this race.
Yeah, all he needs to do is stick with the DRS of the cars ahead, and not lose too many positions off the line. If he can do that, he will definitely have the advantage on those soft tyres at the later end of the race. So it's going to be very interesting to see how his pace is going to hold up against those soft runners ahead. Yeah, I'm just very, very excited. What is your top 3 predictions so far for this race?
Top 3 predictions. That's going to be an interesting one. I do think J. Cole might win this race once again. I think he might take 2 out of 2 for Silverstone this season. He won in the preseason. So I'm going to go for J. Cole for the win. Second place in this race, I'm going to go for Caesar in second place. And I'm going to put TDB on the podium in third. What do you think your podium prediction is?
To be honest, I wanted to say the exact same thing. So that's very interesting. We both, wow. Okay.
There we go. Well, that's our podium predictions, everyone. Send in your podium predictions as well. We'd love to see what you think the finishing order is going to be by the end of this 26-lap race around Silverstone. Here come the lights, though. Ahead of the drivers, Caesar on pole position on the right-hand side of your picture. Who's going to get the best start off the line? It's lights out and away they go. It's a fairly even start from everyone. J. Cole in fourth. Looks like he's had a strong start in the race in point. P's a little bit slow off the line. Caesar into turn 1 with a big, healthy lead coming out of the corner. P's holds on to second ahead of Miami and J. Cole. Yorno looking down the inside, trying to make places on those medium tyres. Has a look to the inside of his championship rival. Doesn't go for it. There's contact. Ferraris is off the road. That's Savage and White YY. They've come into contact. B Morgan was off the road as well. Don't know if he's picked up any wind damage. TDB trying to make a move on Yorno now. Coming down towards Brooklyn. Yorno nearly moving over on him in a straight line. But TDB on those fresh soft compound tyres, looking to the inside and makes the move stick on Yorno pretty early in the race. That he needed to do that to jump ahead of the man on the alternate strategy and keep with the 4 soft runners in front of him. Caesar though continues to lead ahead of P's Miami J. Cole. Fairly clean start across the top 4. No one really lost or gained anything there. TDB has gained a place on Yorno as you would expect. But what a shame for Savage and White YY starting inside the top 10. They're now at the back of the field. White YY as well on that alternate strategy. I think someone picked up front wing damage as well. I didn't quite see who that was. I didn't see anyone at the back of the field with any front wing damage. It might have been to Jonas actually. I think it.
Yeah, it is to Jonas.
Yeah, to Jonas on those medium tyres. What a shame on that alternate strategy on the medium tyres with going to drop back behind B Morgan. So from 8th down to 9th, B Morgan looking to the outside of Stowe. So Jonas surely not going to fight this one with the damage he has. The inside, B Morgan all the way around the outside and there's contact. B Morgan turns into the side and Jonas loses the car, somehow gets away with no damage and continues on in 10th place. We've got Savage into the pits in the background, as is Jonas as well. They're both into the pits, which now puts Old School up into 8th place. Old School started 13th after that grid drop and it's already back to where he would have started without it. So on those medium tyres he's gained 5 places in 1 lap, and Old School on that alternate strategy is throwing himself back into contention here with a great start.
Yeah, now he needs to stick to the back of Edok and keep it in the DRS as Edok makes a slight mistake on the exit of the loop. So this is Old School's chance to stick within the DRS before lap 3, and looks like he is within 1 second range of the Ferrari man ahead. So this is very important for Yorno now to stick within the DRS of TDB and not lose too much time on them. And as I say that, he goes a little bit into the gravel in the exit of Brooklyn, or Lufkin, sorry. So this is a very crucial stage in the race to see if those soft runners can clear the gap ahead. And I think Miami has lost a lot of time.
Yeah, Miami
to Caesar.
Really struggling for paces, Miami. I was just about to say that actually. TDB and J. Cole were swarming all over the back of him coming up into Copse Corner. I think J. Cole might have a run down towards Stowe. TDB, like we said earlier on, is looking so fast. Look at him tucked right up behind J. Cole. He might go for 2 in 1 here as J. Cole looks to the inside of Miami into Stowe. He's going to have the... Can't do anything about it to defend. Miami drops down to 4th place and TDB trying to capitalise as well down the inside of the Vale chicane. Can he get that one stopped up the inside? Miami will have the inside line for Club, but TDB's going to try around the outside. He'll have the outside line as well for the second part, and he's going to through. What a move from TDB. Round the outside of the second part of Club and up into 4th place. He's on a mission, and Miami, after a good qualifying in those wet conditions, seemingly struggling in the dry, and now drops from 3rd down to 5th place.
Yeah, and importantly, Yorno is within DRS of these 3 guys ahead, so he will now basically be in a train with them, and it will get pulled by the leaders. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if J. Cole can close up that 1.9 second gap now to the 2 guys ahead, and it's going to be crucial for him to do so, as I say that he's gained already a 10th through Brooklyn. So yeah, he's looking really fast right now. That's the Racing Point man, and he's going to carry all those drivers. He's going to carry TDB, Miami, and Yorno all the way to the back of Total Peace.
Yeah, let's wait and see if he can pull that one off. Total Peace at the moment actually looks faster than Caesar as well, so I wonder if Total Peace wants to try and get a move done on the AlphaTauri man coming down towards Stowe. Peace has looked so fast all season, but it's never quite worked out for him. He's within 0.3 of a second of Caesar coming down the hanger straight. He should have a run on him. Coming up towards Stowe, he's going to look to the inside line. Caesar will have the outside line, but we could have a change for the lead here, and he's already ahead into the corner. Pease into the race lead. Great racecraft from Pease. Goes to the inside line, and he's up into the lead of the race in Mercedes. Now, can he pull a gap on Caesar and try and get away from the queue of cars that will inevitably be catching behind up into the race lead from Pease. So good stuff, and Caesar drops a place down into second. J. Cole though has brought that gap down to 1.4 seconds and is dragging TDB with him. So at the moment this could become a 4-car battle for the race lead within a few laps.
Yeah, probably even a 6-car battle with Miami and Yorno, as they're still close to the back, but Miami seemingly struggling very much to keep up with TDB ahead, and he's almost under pressure from Yorno now, who's on the medium tire. So this is going to be very, very interesting battle for the race. If Yorno can keep up with these guys ahead, he will have an insane advantage at the end of the race with those soft tires.
Yeah, he really, really will. He's doing a good job to stick with Miami. He's dropped Edoc and Old School behind by nearly 2 seconds. So he's definitely got the best pace out there of the people running on the medium tyres. So Jonas now sets the fastest lap of the race, having done his early pit stop, which is a shame to see. It seems that he's got good pace, but he just can't use it at the moment because he's stuck down currently in 14th place and nearly a pit stop behind the rest of the field, which is a shame to see. Savage runs in behind him in 15th after his early pit stop as well. Looking back to the race lead then, Pease has nearly brought that gap out to 7/10 of a second. Harry Newag with the first penalty of the race, currently running in 11th place in the Alfa Romeo, but Pease definitely looks to have strong pace around here. He's pulled the gap to about 8/10 before the DRS zone, and Caesar's struggling to keep very, very close to the back of him. He closes in because of DRS, but it does look like Caesar's struggling a little bit in the AlphaTauri. I'm wondering whether Caesar maybe has edited his setup maybe for the wet conditions in qualifying, and in the race it will be hampering him a little bit.
Yeah, and Old School now made a move on Edoc, and B. Morgan just followed him through as well. So Edoc losing 2 positions into 1 corner. Now Old School's in 7th place, 3 seconds off the back of Yorno. He's gonna try and close up, and he lets B. Morgan through, and Edoc.
And Bree as well.
He's let Bree through as well. Quite interesting to see what's happened. I don't know why he did that, because he just made a move on Edoc, I believe, and I don't know what happened, but importantly, J. Cole has closed up to the back of Caesar, and he's now within DRS as well.
Here comes
so
Yorno as well. Yorno ran the outside of Brooklands on Miami, tried to go for the move, didn't quite have the momentum to pull that one off, so Miami stays in 4th for the time being. All the battling behind, though, is allowing the top 6 to break away from the rest of the field. B. Morgan currently running in 7th after a bit of a poor start from him. He's currently running in 7th on those soft tyres, starting to break away from Edoc behind him. The only explanation I really have is, Yorno goes down the inside of Miami at Copse. What a move. So much more overspeed into the corner. Miami couldn't do anything to defend against it. Yorno up into 5th place and still only 1.8 seconds behind TDB in front on the medium tyres. Yorno is putting himself in a great position to win this one, as he got Stumpy round through Copse. He's spun the car. I don't know if he's hit anything. We'll ride with him and see. Yeah, he has. He's lost quite a lot of his front wing, unfortunately. So Stumpy spins through Copse and is going to drop right to the back of the field with a front wing change, which is a shame to see. Old School as well pick up a penalty as now Bree works his way past Edoc as well. Edoc really struggling on these medium tyres. He doesn't have the pace of Yorno or Old School directly behind him, and he's now dropped behind both B. Morgan and Bree in the recent laps. And before, obviously, that overtake from Yorno, the only thing I could think of as to why Old School dropped those places is maybe he felt he pushed Edoc off the road, and it was an illegal overtake on Edoc, and the only way he could let him through was by letting B. Morgan and Edoc through as well, and in the process let his teammate through as well.
Yeah, very interesting to see, and I was quite shocked at the time, but I'm not sure why he did that, because it looked like a clean move from him on Edoc. So I'm not quite sure, but now he's going to breeze past Edoc again with the help of DRS, and Old School is going to make the move into Brooklands very, very nice, and now for 100% sure it's clean, and he's not going to let the Florida man through in the later corners of the lap, but now he's looking at the back of Bree already. He's looking really fast, does Old School, but he's lost so much time to the leaders already in this race. This is going to cost him quite massively in terms of time, and interesting thing to note is that Yorno is still within 2 seconds of TDB, and he is doing his strategy right now is working out quite good so far. He's really sticking to the back of those of the top 4, and with those fresh softs at the end of the race, he's definitely going to close into them. So I'm quite excited to see what's gonna happen in the later stage of the race with Yorno and his fresh tires.
What Yorno really needs right now is for either Caesar or J. Cole to drop out of DRS range of the car in front, and for them to start battling, because that would bring Yorno even more into contention in this one. And he's not losing time to the drivers in front, and it's actually helping Miami a little bit as well. He's not losing as much time as he was previously. But one person to look out for at the moment is B. Morgan. B. Morgan in the last lap or so has taken 6 or 7 tenths of a second out of Miami. So B. Morgan on those soft tyres is flying. So he's got some good space, got some good speed in that Haas car, and he's trying to get into that battle for top 5. Let's see if he can close in and try and get there, or whether maybe he'll go for an undercut and try and close in that way. We'll wait and see. But B Morgan looking like he's got good pace, looking further down as well. Old School closing into DRS range on the back of Brie, but he's not going to go for a move as of yet. He's not close enough. But Renaults have worked themselves up the grid nicely from 12th and 13th on the grid, 13th and 14th on the grid, sorry. They're now running 8th and 9th, so they've both gained a net 5 places in this one. They've done a good job so far. Let's wait and see how the rest of the race goes on for them. Eduk again on those medium tyres. He's already dropped out of DRS range to Old School, so Eduk in the Ferrari really not suited to this track, it seems.
Yeah, and those medium tyres aren't quite working out for him so far in this race, which is quite interesting to see, because they do definitely work for Jarno and Old School, of course, because they are quite fast on those medium tyres so far. Yeah, it's just very close in the race. It looks like it's a 4-horse race at the top right now, but we can definitely see Jarno and Miami probably later on in the race add to that battle as well. So yeah, just a lot is going on, and B Morgan's slightly closing in the gap to Miami ahead by a couple of tenths each lap. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he does at the later stage of the race, if he can close into the DRS zone, that DRS range of Miami ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing about Silverstone as well, was that for a very, very long and technical track, the pace difference really between the field is very minute here. Everyone's very, very evenly matched, which is why it seems to work a lot around this circuit. Obviously spread out after the first few laps, after a few battles before DRS became a thing. But since then, everyone seems to be running relatively the same lap times. No one's really losing time. The only person really struggling at the moment is Eduk, and that's why we've highlighted it, because it seems like he's just plummeting through the field at the moment. So let's wait and see if his soft tyres help him a bit later on in the race. The top 4 still all within DRS range of each other. J. Cole only 3 tenths behind Caesar, but Pease picks up his first penalty of the race. So our race leader, the first of the top 5 to pick up a penalty, so that's going to be crucial for this one. J. Cole had a good run through Chapel as well, but he's got absolutely no ERS at all as J. Cole. Nothing to attack with, and Caesar has got a little bit more in his hand to defend with, so he can hold on to the place. J. Cole at the moment looks like he's used a lot of his ERS to close in, and now that he's got there, hasn't got any ERS to attack with.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And Total Piece is well quite low on ERS, as is TDB also quite low on ERS. It's very interesting to see all of this. And B Morgan goes into this quite early, but he gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. This is an undercut attempt from B Morgan to try and maybe gain some time on Miami, but with that 5-second time penalty, that is going to cost him a lot of positions come the end of the race.
Yeah, especially with a late safety car as well. Happen. He doesn't want to drop many places because of that. Miami has picked up a 3-second time penalty himself, so the net difference between them is now only 2 seconds. We'll wait and see if anyone else gets penalties as well, but like I say, be going for that undercut attempt. He's going to come out in acres of clean air, so he's got loads of track in front of him to push into. So let's see what the net gain is. It was about 2.5 seconds between the pair of them coming into that pit stop window, so let's wait and see how much time he can gain in at least one lap. We'll wait and see. But again, like we were saying about ERS, Caesar seems to be saving quite a bit at the moment, doesn't seem to be attacking too much, just sticking in his DRS range and maybe waiting to pounce a little bit later on in the race. Smart driving from Caesar, because it means that he's got a lot in defence of the drivers behind. He doesn't really have to worry about J. Cole or TDB behind, because they haven't got anything to attack with. And Pease with a penalty and no ERS at all means that when Caesar decides to go for it, at the moment, Pease looks like easy meat for him.
Yeah, definitely. He has 20% more ERS than Total Piece, so technically it should be quite an easy move for J. Cole's in the pits. Yeah, that is an undercut attempt from him to try and overtake the Mercedes and the Alpha Tauri man ahead. So this is going to be very interesting to monitor. How is his outlap going to be, and if he's going to get that undercut on the 2 guys ahead, which is very crucial for him this lap. He really needs to push and use his ERS to gain time on the 2 ahead.
Yeah, let's see how he comes out relative to the drivers around him. He's also going to be in a lot of clean air as well, so he's got stuff to push into. Lap 10 of the race we just started, they pitted at the end of lap 19, so he's got to tweak these tyres 17 laps into this race, which is quite a long distance for the medium tyres. They will get to the end of the race relatively easy, but the pace at the end won't obviously be quite as good as the people around him on a fresher set of medium tyres, but he's got to go for that undercut attempt, try and get in front of the rivals around him. He's up to 50% ERS as well now, so he's got a little bit more in reserve to try and attack with on this outlap. We'll wait and see as well if anyone reacts, TDB's on the move, having lost out, having J. Cole coming into the pit lane. TDB is now only about 0.3 of a second behind Caesar in front of him, so TDB looking very, very racy. Mundy, if he's going to pit this lap as well, he's caught right onto the back of Caesar very quickly, and Caesar made a little mistake there through Chapel as well. I wonder if TDB is going to go for the move here. He's on his overtake, he's in the wheel tracks of the car in front, but he just doesn't have anything to attack with, so he's going to stay behind for the time being. He stays in third place on the road. Which one of the top three then is going to come in? Does anyone stay out? They all come in apart from TDB. TDB stays out on the track then, so he's going to run on his own. Peas and Caesar into the pit lane. And to be honest, I think this is fair from TDB. He knows that he's fourth in this queue, and he knows that if he pits now, he's still going to come out behind J. Cole, so he may as well go a little bit longer and give himself an advantage of fresher tyres at the end.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like he had a natural pace over those two cars ahead because he was closing in quite rapidly during the lap. So if an overcut attempt isn't out of the question, but it's going to be interesting to see how J. Cole is going to come out to compared to Total Peace and Caesar. Is he going to come out ahead of them? They both just came outside the pit box right now, looking at this at the pit exit, and J. Cole is very. Is he going to come out ahead? Total is ahead of Caesar, but he's just behind Total Peace right now, and he has to be behind. Undercut attempt has worked for J. Cole because now he's the second car in the train, and he will definitely have the chance to make a move on Total Peace. Yeah,
up into a net second place then is J. Cole right on the back of Peace. Does he go for the move immediately, or does he wait? He's on his overtake, but Peace is on his overtake in defense as well. J. Cole used up all of his excess overtake to try and get in that position. It's worked for him, and Caesar's not within DRS range behind, but Caesar, look at that, 70% ERS. He's got so much more than both of the drivers in front of him. Meanwhile as well, that battle for a net 5th place on the road between Yorno, Miami and B. Morgan. B. Morgan's now right within DRS range in Miami of just after 2 laps, and B. Morgan set the fastest lap of the race on the last lap as well, so he's really pushing on those medium tyres. He's got great pace at the moment, faster than J. Cole on that previous lap as well. So B. Morgan now right within DRS into Miami. That's about a 2-second gain in 2 laps, as TDB's now into the pit lane a lap later. So let's see where he comes out relative to the other drivers around him on the track. That now means Yorno leads the race on those medium tyres, is now into the race lead. Let's see where he comes out when he puts the soft tyres on later on as well. And Yorno seems to have very good pace on these mediums, because look at the gap he's got over Old School. Obviously Old School may have moved out the way of the drivers around him, but Old School nearly 8 seconds back. YHYY is now ahead of his teammate Eduk as well, and they're a further near 5 seconds back from that. So Yorno on those medium tyres looking incredibly confident.
Yeah, now TDB is coming out of the pit and he's going to slot in behind the top 3. I think the overcut has not worked for him in this race, and it's very close between him and Caesar, but Caesar just lost in ahead of him. But he had 2 lap fresh tyres over J. Cole and 1 lap fresh tyres over Total Peace, and Caesar is he going to take that advantage and try and make a move on these cars? It's going to be incredibly difficult for him because he is the 4th car in the DRS train, and Caesar does have DRS to defend himself, or not on this lap for some reason, which is quite remarkable to see. But yeah, it will be quite difficult for TDB to make moves when a car ahead has DRS to defend with.
Yeah, exactly. So see, now back within DRS range. I think he was just outside of the DRS range when he went through the detection point at the start of the lap. But he didn't have it, but he's right back in it now. So that means that TDB is now in that position once again. He's at the back of the queue. He's going to have to hope for a bit of battling in front. We might get that because J. Cole's looking very racy behind Peas. Peas has a bit more ERS ahead of him to try and defend with. J. Cole once again back to barely any ERS at all to attack with. But just in raw pace alone, J. Cole seems to be the faster of the 2 drivers, trying to work his way through. But at the moment, just can't seem to do it. He's just not saving any ERS. Because of that, he hasn't got anything really to attack with. So maybe it's smarter for J. Cole at this point in the race to just sit back for a few laps, save up some ERS, and then go for a push lap and try and pass Peas that way.
Yeah, I think that is the best option he has right now, because he is using a lot of ERS, trying moves where basically the move actually is none. He's quite far behind, and now Caesar with the fast lap of the race, he's looking quite fast with the excess of ERS he had, and it's all going to be close for this battle for P1. Of course, J. Cole doesn't have to quite make the move just yet because Total Peace has a time penalty, so if the race finishes as it stands right now, J. Cole would win the race on penalties. But yeah, if he just saves his ERS, he will definitely have a chance to attack Total Peace, because Total Peace is quite low on ERS as well, and being the car ahead, it's going to be much more difficult for him to save that ERS during the course of the lap. So if J. Cole just keeps his ERS in check, as he uses it quite a bit right now to get close to the back of Total Peace, then J. Cole really should just save his ERS basically to mount an actual charge on the Mercedes ahead.
Yeah, and at the moment in this queue as well, it does look like the fastest person in the queue is at the back of the queue, and the slowest person in the queue is at the front of the queue. That's what it seems like at the moment. TDB is still swarming all over the back of Caesar. Caesar used pretty much all of his reserves of ERS to get back within DRS range, which is a little bit bizarre. I think he would have got back in within DRS range anyway, so he's used that extra 50% ERS advantage he had over the drivers around him, and now he doesn't have that advantage anymore. So that's a little bit bizarre in terms of strategy from Caesar's point of view, I believe. I think he should have saved that ERS maybe, and then he could have really attacked at the end, especially if they started to separate, this top four started to separate a little bit towards the end. Just an update as well on the drivers out in the front of the field. Yorno still leads 8 seconds ahead of Old School, continues to pull away. YHYY running really at the same pace as Old School at the moment, and he's now dropped Edok out of DRS range, so Edok continues to struggle. Harry Nawag is currently running 5th and is still on the soft compound tyres. He hasn't pitted yet. It's on lap 14. We're already halfway through this race, and he still hasn't taken off those soft compound tyres yet, which is a very, very bizarre strategy from Harry Nawag, and maybe he's hoping for some sort of safety car so that he can use the freshness of his mediums at the end to power through towards the end of the race.
Yeah, I think that would be the case, but it's quite late now, and he lost a lot of time to the drivers behind him right now. So yeah, I mean, really should pit now for fresh tires. He's losing a lot of time. Maybe he's hoping for a late safety car in this race, but at the moment it's not looking like that's going to happen.
No.
But yeah, it's very close, and J. Cole's still using his ERS and closing to the back of Total Peace before the DRS side. And is he going to have enough to attack Total Peace this lap? They're both on the overtake. They're both using a lot, and J. Cole is closing in quite rapidly on the hanger straight. Is he going to have a look up the inside? And he goes for it. J. Cole up the inside, but Total Peace.
J. Cole gets caught. Yeah, J. Cole gets caught on the curb there. They were side by side, and I think J. Cole hit the grass and then just understeered really into the side of P's car. So J. Cole spins out of contention. In the same time, B. Morgan looking up the inside of Miami at the Vale and chicane, and he spins as well off the side. And J. Cole nearly slams directly into the back of it. They lose even more time. Miami, that was just another move like lap one from J. Cole. I don't know. I wouldn't really put blame on anyone for that incident. J. Cole went for the move up the inside. Pease did leave him the space, but I think J. Cole just hit the grass on the inside of the Stowe corner and just plain understeered into the side of Pete's car. But that has taken second place in the championship completely out of race winning contention now, and that puts Yorno in a great position when he comes into the pit lane. He should be ahead of J. Cole after his pit stops now, and that means now Total Peace leads from Caesar and TDB. They will be our podium sitters currently, and look at TDB pushing Caesar through Luffield. He knows that now that J. Cole's out of the way, he's got a real good opportunity to win this race. So TDB looking like he wants to get the move on as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's definitely but now it's only the third car in the DRS stream, but it's still going to be difficult for him to overtake. But Total Peace ahead of him does have a time penalty, so actually, if TDP just manages time penalties, all he needs to do is overtake Caesar this race, but that is easier than harder than it sounds. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen, as Savage has retired in the pits and his cars unfortunately come out back on track. He might impede someone on his lap, but yeah, Old School is now into the pits, and Harry Noirk into the pits as well. So they just see where they come out. They should probably come out near around J. Cole and B. Morgan, I imagine, on those fresh soft tires. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they can move up places on those fresh soft tires.
Yeah, Edok, meanwhile, he came for a soft tyres as well the lap previous. He's well off the back of this queue of cars. He was 13 seconds behind Bree. Bree's another person we've completely ignored in this race. Bree, with all the chaos around him, he's now only a 10th behind B. Morgan, so he's in this battle now for P5 on the road. He's caught up really nicely on these medium tyres, which are actually 2 laps fresher than B. Morgan's, so he's in a good position. Old School comes out of the pit lane 1.5 seconds behind his teammates. So he's got Bree in front, B. Morgan, J. Cole, and Miami, who we can all really catch up to and overtake. So Old School still possible for him to get a top 5. But that does mean the gap that Yorno had over Old School does mean that Yorno, with the pace he's shown on these medium tyres, could actually come out of the pit lane ahead of Miami. So he could actually pull an overcut on Miami on the alternate strategy. That would put no cars in between him and TDP. But as I say that, Yorno picks up a 5-second tyre penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So all of that hard work undone by speeding in the pit lane.
That is crucial for this race, because now with those, he's going to need a 5-second gap to the cars behind, and that is not as easy as it sounds around the track where the margins are so close. So Yorno's basically thrown away a good chance of a race win, I imagine, and that's very disappointing for him. This race, as he's driven quite good so far, and yeah, he's now.
And actually, look how much he's jumped Miami. Look at the gap he's got on Miami coming out of the pit lane. He's well ahead of Miami coming out of the pit lane. He's only 4.5 seconds off the battle for the lead, so that time penalty is massively crucial because give or take a few laps, Yorno could be at the back of this queue of cars in this DRS train. So amazing medium stint from Yorno has put him in this battle for the race win on those softer compound tyres now, but that time penalty is going to cost him massively unless the 3 drivers in front of him all pick up penalties themselves. Pease has 1, but that's still a net gain on Yorno, but he has already got nearly 5 seconds on Miami behind, so Yorno, just with that stint on the medium tyres, has done an incredible job.
Yeah, that's a really good job, and then probably without that time penalty, I imagine he will fight his way back to the net race lead. And yeah, this has massively cost his chances of a podium and a race win because he's looking incredibly fast right now on those soft tires. And interesting thing to note is Caesar almost dropped outside the DRS of Toto Pearce, using a lot of his ERS to get back in. But Caesar now is struggling to keep up with Toto Pearce ahead. And that gives the opportunity for TDP to maybe close up and overtake him.
I think the moment that Caesar drops out of DRS range to Pease is the moment TDB pounces, because he is basically pushing that man through the second part of this lap. He's so much faster, it seems, than Caesar in front, but just can't do anything with it. Yorno in a lap alone has taken a second out of the drivers in front of him, so he's absolutely flying. Stumpy, meanwhile, has gone for another spin. He's on the hard compound tyres after that early pit stop. He's had another spin coming through Luffield. Old School sets the fastest lap of the race of a 27.2. He's already passed Bree, and he's right behind B. Morgan, so he's on the move on these soft compound tyres as well. The soft compounds have such a massive pace advantage at the end of this race that the alternate strategy looked like a very, very smart choice in the end, especially from Yorno so high up in the so high up on the grid order. Old School trying to get a move on B. Morgan, then down the Wellington straight. He's got a lot of overtake to use at his disposal. He's going to look to the inside of B. Morgan. I don't think B. Morgan's got anything to fight with on this one. Old School goes down the inside, but B. Morgan holds it around the outside. B. Morgan gets a little bit more contact. B. Morgan really has been roughed up in this race so far, and Old School going to drive clean around the outside of him at Luffield, and Old School up into 8th place. He's got 3 seconds to Miami in front, but he is on a charge, is Old School. He could be flying towards the top 5 here. Meanwhile, J. Cole has now passed Miami, so Miami's lost another place, and that now means that he's up into 6th, and Yorno's J. Cole, his real target for the rest of this race is now to try and get within with that 5-second winner of Yorno in front.
Yeah, and if he can do that, then that would be quite insane. That would be an insane recovery, and Yorno picks up a 3-second time penalty as well. Ooh. So now definitely J. Cole has the chance of sticking within 8 seconds now. So this is all Yorno driving an incredible race with the mediums, and it's not quite working out on the soft tires as of right now, because he picked up the 5-second time penalty when entering into pits, and now a 3-second time penalty for cutting the track. And with soft tires, he of course sets the fastest lap of the race, but yeah, he's really hindered his own race. He's driven insanely good on those medium tires, and on those soft tires, it's very unfortunate for him, as TDP is looking really close to the back of Caesar into Brooklands, but can't quite make the move. Caesar just using that DRS and slipstream from Toto Pearce up ahead to defend from the Williams man behind. So yeah, if TDP can make a move on Caesar, I imagine he'll make a move quite easily on Toto Pearce as well.
I imagine so as well, and TDB, if he wants to win this race, has got to get the move done on Caesar. That's his main rival here. Doesn't have a penalty as of yet. Total Peace does, just as a reminder, and Yorno has 8 seconds of time penalties behind, so even with the pace advantage Yorno has, he's not really a threat anymore in this race for the race victory. So it's, at the moment at least, between Caesar and TDB. Anything can change in this one, and TDB trying to get a move on Caesar, trying to get past. Neither of these drivers have won a race this season so far, thus yet, I believe, just having a double check of that one actually so far, yeah, neither of these drivers have won a race so far this season. Caesar has finished second 3 times. He's been the bridesmaid in these races 3 times this season, so he's looking for his first win. TDB's not finished on the podium as of yet, so he wants his first race of the season, win of the season as well. So let's see if he can get past White YY now out of the race lead. He comes into for his pit stop onto the soft tyres. He went a lot longer than a lot of people on those mediums, so he's gone at least 3 or 4 laps longer than those around him. So let's see where he comes out. He's going to be right at the back of this queue of cars that is currently upheld by Bree in 10th place, which will be 9th when he goes past, and White YY might actually be closer to Edok and Harry Nawag a bit further back. So not the best race so far for Ferrari. They've not really had the pace today to really challenge for anything. Again, TDB within 0.2 of a second to Caesar coming down the Wellington straight, but with Caesar's ERS and the DRS on P's in front, TDB just doesn't really have enough to pass him at the moment.
Yeah, and it's all closing up very rapidly at the top right now, and TDP is really looking fast on those medium tires compared to Caesar. He really wants to get the move done, but Caesar just sticking behind Total Pace as he makes a little mistake through Cops, and TDP is going to try a move up the inside of Maggots, and he gets through on Caesar. What a move, very opportunistic from TDP, noticing the mistake from Caesar and gets ahead of Caesar, and now he has Total Pace in his sights for the race win.
Brilliant stuff from TDB. He knew he had to get the move done in an unorthodox place. It wasn't going to happen on a straight. He's done it. Yorno, meanwhile, further behind, trying to get up the inside of Caesar. Doesn't quite have the room, so he stays in fourth for the time being. Caesar could lose 2 places in a lap here. As look at Yorno looking up the inside of the Vale Club chicane. Caesar leaves in the room, but there's not really any gap as Yorno does the up and under through Club. He's going to be side by side in the final corner up the inside. Caesar's going to force out a little bit wide, but Yorno will have the inside line for Abbey, and Yorno makes the move stick. Good move. He's up into third on the road now. Caesar, having struggled on these medium tyres, is now dropping him a bit further back. He's now down to 4th place. Yorno is up into 3rd, but at the moment that's all for nothing because of those penalties he has. Yorno, just based on the pace alone that he has, he will stay in 4th across the line as it stands without any more penalties, just because he has a little bit of a pace advantage over J. Cole. So let's wait and see how the rest of this race pans out, but Yorno could still walk away with this one ahead of J. Cole in the race standings, and Old School is closing in on Miami and J. Cole quite rapidly in front as well, so he's not out of this one just yet either. TDB now then is the main challenger to Pease. He's only 0.5 of a second behind. Can TDB get past Pease? Pease has led almost every lap of this race. He's been out front since passing Caesar on the second lap of this race, and since then Pease has not really had anyone try and overtake on him apart from J. Cole, and that obviously went wrong. But Pease has done an incredible job at sustaining the pressure and holding on to the race lead for the time being.
Yeah, now he has a new challenger, TDB, who hasn't tried to move yet on Total Pace, or hasn't had the chance yet. So it's going to be very interesting to see. He looks like the fastest driver out of today so far, because he is quite rapid, and he's closing to the back of Total Pace. He's going to mount a charge on the Mercedes man, and hopefully, or possibly, overtake the Mercedes man. He's driving such an incredible race, Total Pace and TDB as well. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how these two are going to finish, because the TDB is really closing up to the back of Total Pace. You might have a look up the inside of town, and he just stays behind so far.
Yorno as well had tried to have a little look there as well. Had to back out of it because there wasn't enough room. The problem for TDB here is that his race all depends on what Yorno does, and Yorno's looking very racy on those soft tyres as he's trying to go for a move now down towards Brooklands. Yorno will have the outside line coming into the corner, but he now switches to the inside. He's going to look down the inside. Is he going to get that move done? TDB will have the inside line for Luffield, but I imagine the soft tyres will allow him to drive around the outside. No, they won't. TDB's going to keep his line on the inside. They are still running side by side as they come through Woodcote and up towards Copse Corner. Great racing between these two. Can Yorno power around the outside up towards Copse? Who's going to be the first to blink here? Who goes into the corner? They make contact, and Yorno kind of turns in a little bit on TDB. TDB somehow manages to hold on to the car and just about stick in DRS range of Yorno in front, but Yorno up into second place on the road, and now he gets a chance to challenge Pease. He should easily get the move done on the Mercedes man, but like we said, Yorno has penalties, which means that he will not win this race as it stands. He's going to go for the move probably at Stowe down the inside of Pease. I wonder if Pease knows about the penalties. Yorno down the inside, Pease trying to hold it around the outside. Pease still has the race lead coming down towards the Vale Club chicane. Yorno has the grip on the outside. Is he going to try and do the switchback like he pulled on Caesar? He will have the corner, but he just understeers a little bit too wide there, so he won't be able to get the move done. Pease again, great defending, and he holds on to the lead for the time being. We are on to lap 23, 4 laps to go. Who's going to win this one?
This is very close, but the top two have penalties, and I think TDB doesn't have penalties, and Caesar as well, though it doesn't have penalties, so it's going to be very interesting to see how this all pans out. But the battle just reigns on, and TDB actually doesn't have to make a move probably to win this race. All he has to do is just not pick up a time penalty, and he could still win this race. So yeah, just letting Yorno through could be a wise option, and essentially just clear everything up ahead of him, because Yorno will not win this race with a 5-second and a 3-second time penalty. So it's all going to be very close to the race. Caesar has dropped out of DRS to the back of TDB, so it's all really close now. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it all pans out, as Yorno uses overtake and is almost going to look up the inside of Maggots and Beckett's, which is very opportunistic from him, but he has so much grip on those soft tires, and I imagine he'll get past on the hangar straight now to the Mercedes-man. But Total Pace is getting a good exit off of Chapel, so he will probably hold the position so far into the corner, and Jorna just has to stick in behind the Mercedes, and Total Peace has driven an incredible race so far, and has defended every position fairly and hard and quite good, and he's held his position throughout this lap too. So every challenges that he has faced so far hasn't overtaken him yet. So it's going to be very interesting as Jordan closes up so much through Abbey, and he's going to maybe have a look at the inside. He goes for it in Village, and Total Peace stays ahead again. Incredible defensive driving from him.
This has definitely been Peace's best race of the season so far. This is what we've been expecting all season from Peace. He's had the pace, but it's never quite worked for him. Jorna's going to have a run down towards Brooklands. Does Peace go to the inside line? No, Jorna's going to move to the inside line. He will take the lead down the inside. Can Peace hold it round the outside though? But he's forced off the road by Jorna. He'll have the inside line for Luffield, but can Jorna pull it round the outside of the corner? I think he can. He will. So Jorna now into the race lead. Peace finally recedes the lead of this race, but it doesn't mean anything at the moment because he will still finish ahead of Jorna based on penalties. TDB now trying to get past Peace on the road as well. He's basically pushing the pair of them through Copse Corner. Caesar at the moment in fourth, continuing to lose time to the drivers in front. He's nearly 2 seconds off the back of this queue. Just goes to show how powerful DRS is around this circuit. Can Peace maybe go for a move back past Jorna down the hanger straight? He slightly touches the grass through Chapel, so he is not going to get the run on the McLaren man in front. TDB might have a run in behind, but doesn't have the overtake in his attack to be able to make the move, so he stays in third for the time being. I was going to say before Peace got overtaken that Peace has been so strong through Maggots and Beckett's that it's meant that no one can really challenge him. He's been so strong through that corner, and it's shown throughout the race because no one apart from Jacob has ever really gone for a move on him down hanger. It's always been everywhere else that Peace's overtakes have come. Also looking a bit further down the field as well, just to move away from the lead battle a bit. After Old School's early charge, he's now back behind B. Morgan and is losing pace. So I don't know if he's had a spin somewhere or if he's picked up any damage. I don't think he has, but it doesn't look like the soft tyres are working all that well for Old School.
Yeah, that's very surprising to see, and yeah, it's not working. Oh, as he spins now through Abbey. Ooh. He spins and he hits the wall. Just about doesn't get damaged somehow. I don't know how he did not get damaged from that, but he drops a position to his teammate, and that was a very yeah, I didn't expect that spin, to be honest, through Abbey. Usually quite a easy flat-out corner, and yeah, wow. Old School just doesn't have to grip on those soft tires compared to Jorna ahead.
This is a race where Old School needed to beat his championship rivals to get really close into this battle, and so far it's just not worked out for him. He's really struggled for grip today. It's a shame to see him struggle this much, and he's now back behind his teammate Bree, so the alternate strategy has not worked for him. It does look like that the only person that's made the alternate strategy work is Jorna, but with the penalties means that he's not going to get the rewards of it in the end. He will still, at the moment, hold on to fourth in this race, as Peace is actually trying to come back at Jorna down towards the Vale and Club chicane, nearly runs clean into the back of him, but just about stays behind. All now we're coming on to the final lap. TDB still with no penalty in this race means that at the moment he will take the race win when they cross the line the next time round, but if TDB does pick up another penalty, the race I think will swing towards Caesar. Caesar's just close enough to capitalise on these two in front, unless Caesar himself picks up a penalty, which means that Pease will win this race. Who knows what could happen on this final lap? We'll have to wait and see. Does Pease want to go for a move on Jorna in front? We'll have to wait and see. Or does he just stick in behind and claim his second podium of the season? Let's wait and see as they come down the Wellington Straight, coming down towards Brooklands. Jorna still in the lead for the time being. I will say it does look like Pease has a very fast car in a straight line because it's so easy for him to close in, even without overtake on the drivers in front. So let's wait and see if he has that coming down the hanger straight. He's on the overtake as well, coming towards Copse, trying to close in even more on the McLaren man in front, trying to get back into the net race lead. He's done a brilliant job today, but that one penalty for Pease is going to cost him his first win of the season, it looks like. Jorna actually had a poor run through Copse, so Pease having a look down the inside of the first part of Maggots, but doesn't go for it. He's going to stay in behind through the complex, and now coming down towards the hanger straight, it looks like Jorna's got a pretty good run through Chapel, and it looks like he's going to hold on to the lead on the track at least. Here comes Pease then in his slipstream. He's not close enough, and he doesn't have any RS left to attack with, so he's going to stay in second place on the road. But at the moment, this does mean that TDB is going to take his first race win of the season. That would be a great result from him. We predicted it before the race that TDB had great pace around here, and it could work out for him. Jorna's going to cross the line on the alternate strategy to win on the track, but the penalties are going to cost him in the end. He crosses the line in first position, but TDB will pick up his first win in Eloise, in his first win of the season. What a drive from TDB, who struggled so much this season and to try and get the best performance out of the car, and it's all worked for him today. No penalties, a clean race. He pulls it off. B Morgan, meanwhile, has spun at the final corner of the race, and he drops from 7th down to 10th. What a shame for B Morgan, who had such a good comeback drive earlier on, and it's all fallen apart for him at the end. He might actually drop to 11th behind Eduk, and he does, so Eduk gets into the top 10. B Morgan only 2 points in this race after that late spin. Caesar ends up in second, but only a 10th ahead of Pease. They really pulled away from Caesar at the end of that race. He lost so much pace towards the end. Yorno slots into 4th, so even with the penalties, he will extend his championship lead over J. Cole, who finishes in 5th place. Miami in 6th after good qualifying, just not quite having the race pace in the end. White's way up to 7th on the alternate strategy ahead of Bree, Old School, and Eduk rounding off the top 10. Harry Noir, we just wait for him to finish in the Alfa Romeo with, I think, a 2-stop race in this one, and it just hasn't gone his way. But what a drive from TDB to pick up his first win of the season.
Yeah, insanely good drive from him, and not picking up those time penalties. Looked extremely fast throughout the race, and in my opinion, deserving race winner. But Total Peace drove him quite good as well throughout the race, and I think he deserved the race win as well. But TDB ends up winning the race on penalties, and fair enough to him. Yeah, it's just great performance from him, and a deserving race winner.
He is, yeah, and that's all part of the game, isn't it? Trying to keep the penalties low, that is all part of it, and that's a skill that you need to learn as well, and it's a skill that TDB seems to have mastered around here. A brilliant drive from him in the Williams to pick up the race win, but like you say, Pease fought valiantly throughout that race. He held the race lead for the majority of that one. What a great drive from Pease, but in the end he's only rewarded with 3rd place, with what could have been his first win in the season. TDB then picks up a win from 6th on the grid. Caesar comes home in 2nd place ahead of Pease in 3rd. That moves Caesar much closer to Old School in the championship. That closes up, I think the gap between them is now halved coming into the next round of the season, so Caesar starting to close back in on the drivers in front of him in the championship. It's only small, but every little thing counts here, so he's up to 2nd. Pease 3rd ahead of Yorno in 4th. Despite the penalties, he will extend his championship lead by 2 points in this race ahead of J. Cole, up to a massive 3-point tally. It's still incredibly close in this championship. Miami picks up 6th place ahead of White, who came 7th and the fastest lap in the Ferrari. Bree in 8th ahead of Old School in 9th. Eduk rounds off the top 10. B Morgan and Hannah Ruag finish off the point scorers and the finishers. Stumpy, Savage and Tejonis could not finish the race today. They all had problems in the first lap, and neither Stumpy, Savage or Tejonis could recover from them, so they didn't end up finishing the race in the end. That I also like to say hats off to Division 3. I think that is probably the least chaotic race we've had this season.
Yeah, and I think that is the case, to be honest. Because I mean, it was a clean race so far. I think maybe just a couple of incidents between Total Peace and J. Cole and Miami and B Morgan. I believe those are the only 2 incidents I believe that happened throughout the race. So fairly clean, and hats off to everyone. No safety cars at all, not even a VSC. So great job, everyone.
Great stuff. And now, after Silverstone, we move on to a completely different track. We move over to Hungary, which is, in my opinion, one of my favourite tracks on the calendar. I absolutely love that track. But for racing, it's pretty difficult to overtake there. So it's fair to say that qualifying is going to be very, very important in Hungary. Going into Hungary in a week's time, who do you predict to have a good race next time out?
I mean, anyone could actually have a good race. I mean, Total Peace showed today that he definitely... If it's his day, he can definitely challenge for the race win every single race. But I'm expecting to see Yorno, J. Cole, probably TDB again back at the top for next week's race. So it's going to be very interesting to see around a very technical circuit. So it's going to be difficult to overtake. It's going to be very exciting to see what's going to happen. Yorno taking the lead by 3 points, or keeping his lead and extending it by 2 points. So now it's a 3-point gap to J. Cole behind. Still very close between those 2 drivers. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how the rest of the season pans out.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see, like you say. And that is where we're going to wrap off the stream today, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in for Division 3 once again. Tune in again this time next week for round 10 of the season. We're halfway through the championship. What a brilliant season it's been so far. Tune in as well in about 15 minutes or so time for the start of the Division 2 race. Dylan, you'll be racing in that one, and you'll be racing now for the lead of the championship, so good luck in that one in Britain as well. I'm sure that's going to be another close race. But again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you everyone for racing. Thank you for people commenting on the stream as well. And we will see you again this time next week. And from myself and Dylan, it is thank you very much and goodbye.